The Uncontrollables. Outrageous? Sometimes. Thoughtful? Maybe. Offensive? Probably. Fabulous? Always. Alright, we're back for the 4th episode of The Uncontrollables. I'm pretty sure, as all of you have found out thus far, that we're all a little insane. My guests make you feel either hyper-intelligent or like you just lost all faith in humanity. Tonight's not going to be any different. I'm back here with my co-host, Josh Featherstone.
Good evening, morning, whenever the hell you're listening to this.
Oh, it's going to be 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, so it's going to be evening, but thanks.
Happy Tuesday evening.
Yeah, and he's some kind of leadership with the LPIN of Marion County. Let's see here. We also got Paul Gable. Say hi.
Hi.
And who are you, and why are you important, and why are you here?
Well, much like Josh, I have some kind of leadership position within the Shelby County Party where hopefully I'll be able to dig out by Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Yeah, you might need to. So you're the chair of the Libertarian Party of Shelby County, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you could have just said that instead of doing a roundabout thing, acting like people may or may not know what we're talking about. So
I've not been outranked before.
Oh, you are outranked.
I'm outranked.
That was why I did it in a roundabout manner.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to get a new co-host now, Josh. You're fired. Hey, Paul.
Right. Hi, Paul.
I promise not to lie about you later. Okay, the weather right now, there's like 4 inches of snow on the ground, and I told Paul here, my guest, that the weather was going to be fine, it was going to be safe, and it was going to clear up in like 20 minutes. That was about 3 hours ago, and it's still snowing.
Right, it's going to get heavier.
Expect treatment like that if you ever want to be a guest on this show. I am not going to treat you nice. I really don't care if you come on or not. I'll find somebody else. Come on, please. I'll be nice. Don't listen to that. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about rebranding efforts of the GOP, and we'll kind of hop into the rebranding efforts, or I don't want to say efforts because that means something actually has to be happening. The retooling, the tools, LPIN tools, retooling. That's a good fit of the LPIN.
Paul, how much are you keeping up with the rebranding of the GOP and what's going on there with... it seems like all of a sudden they're trying to actually act like maybe they've got a libertarian streak in them. They're talking Rand Paul. They're talking old Justin Amash and you know people that just literally months ago were kind of the outcasts in the Republican Party, and now all of a sudden you know they got their ass spanked a little bit, and they're coming around, or at least are trying to represent themselves like they are. What do you think about what's going on over there?
I don't know if it's necessarily that they're coming around. There's still a great divide within the GOP when you have an ass clown like Lindsey Graham, who happens to be from South Carolina, where I'm from, and some of the other idiots that you have, John McCain,
Right,
specifically, and Lindsey Graham, both going after Rand Paul. Not even 24 hours after he did maybe one of the greatest things. And all he did was just ask a question that he wanted an answer to.
sure.
And all of a sudden sparked this movement where people are starting to realize that the white heterosexual ways and may not be the best. And Rand Paul hit the nail on the head when he said that their leadership is stale and moss-covered. What's your thoughts, Maya?
Don't ask the host what their thoughts are.
Especially this host.
My thoughts on the GOP, I mean, they've rebranded themselves how many times over the last couple of decades? I mean, from my memory of what history is and everything else, because I don't really go back farther than this, you got Goldwater. Think of Goldwater. Goldwater was like the Ron Paul of the day. He spawned...
Yeah, Goldwater was...
I mean, he was huge.
He was a libertarian.
Oh, yeah, no, straight up
libertarian. He wore the R brand, but boy, Goldwater.
And that
was
wasn't a different day. That was really before the Libertarian Party even come into the thought processes of anybody. I mean, Ayn Rand and the Libertarians were fighting way back when. So it kind of hits on that point, and then you go, a couple decades later, and you've got Reagan, who talked a great game. He sounds just like Rand Paul. Talks this splendid game, just this superb thing, and blah, 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 blah. He sounds like a freaking messiah. That's how everybody treats him until they get into office, and then he was an absolute worthless degradate, and he should have been removed from office about 10 minutes after winning. But so the whole rebranding thing, they've done it a million times, and nothing's changed. They've talked this big game about, fighting for smaller government, this and that, and this country's gone nowhere but down. There is no uptick this country's seen in the last, 70 years? No, let's go back further than that. It's since at least 1913. The GOP wants to talk about sound money and fiscal government and everything, but then you think that 1913, when we passed the 16th and 17th Amendment, that fundamentally changed everything about this country, and when we passed the Federal Reserve Act, they've done nothing to stop that, worry about that at all, and they want to talk about rebranding now. A couple of them want to mention, gays getting married and homosexual marriage and all that. Really? That's going to be your big ticket in your rebranding effort? Rand Paul's going to talk about drones for 13 hours, and poorly at that, and that's the rebranding? That's our hero? That's our savior?
Well,
what?
Here's the thing: is it's not a rebranding effort. They're going to go back. This is, if anything, this is a sign that right off the bat that the Republicans will do what they think is best to sell themselves instead of just doing what's right for the sake of doing what's right. This isn't anything about, all of a sudden we've decided we're going to head down a little bit more of a libertarian path. They just think that maybe there's a way for them to pick up some more votes. And that's all that this is going to be. I'm sure there are some people that have a little bit more libertarian leanings among them that maybe will get some leadership positions like Rand Paul. I would fully expect him to be running for president in 2016. Marco Rubio is going to have, he's going to be a new face of the party. But the reality of it is that, once they start getting some elections won, heading down this path, I think you're going to realize almost immediately how much this is just talk and not an actual path that they truly intend to go down. It's the game that the Republicans and Democrats have played for as long as I've been alive.
Well, and the reason why the Republicans lost in November, I don't think it was a branding issue, aside from the fact that they had a complete dumbass that they put on the ticket and ran in Mitt Romney.
No, you're right, though, about what the Republicans did with Mitt Romney and how, first off, you're right. He was just a terrible, terrible candidate. I don't know what the Republicans expected to get from him. He was a primary winning kind of candidate. He was never a general election winner. And the Republicans voted for somebody that they liked instead of somebody that's actually going to do, first off, even be able to win the general election, let alone be able to do anything positive once they did. So that guy had absolutely, you want to talk about a bad brand? As
but
we're talking
his
hair.
His hair, it was beautiful.
His hair and his jeans, that's all he had going for him.
Oh,
Who
come
cares?
on, he was so pretty.
My point, though, is
jeans?
as bad as Obama was the last 4 years,
that's past tense.
the Democrats gave it to the Republican Party to win, and Mitt couldn't get it done.
Oh.
So now they're in this free fall of what do we have to do to pick up votes? Do we attract the Latino votes and make immigration a big thing? Do we lean towards the Libertarians and Rand Paul goes out and talks about drones for 13 hours, which I'll disagree. I thought he did a decent job.
I you know what? I stand behind what he did. I like what he did. It was a powerful statement. It's something no one's done in a number of years. I have mixed feelings on Rand Paul. He is definitely not his father. He's not even close to his father. I feel like he is a little bit more words than action. But, as far as what the GOP has to offer, I'm happy if they're actually going to head down that path, which I obviously have my doubts. I'm happy that maybe they're considering it.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out between now and 2016, because you have to remember Rubio was real big Tea Party Freedom Works guy that was put out there to win in Florida, and he's done that. You have Rand Paul, who libertarian leaning, but also part of that quote-unquote Tea Party movement. I'm sure you'll see, as if things couldn't get any worse, you'll probably see Jeb Bush run. So it'll be pretty interesting to see where those factions within the GOP, who they align themselves with.
But
go ahead.
They talk about rebranding. The GOP is talking about all this stuff. But when you look at their base and you look at all their elected officials across this country, they're putrid. And they have been for decades. They've been recycling the same people over and over and over again. If Reagan was so damn special and awesome, and there's that whole Reagan age and all the Reagan Republicans, where'd they go? Where'd that rebranding turn into? You know what that turned into? Nothing. Nothing at all. Because we had Clinton, who was a better fiscal conservative than most of the Republican presidents we've had in, how many decades?
Something we've actually just talked about recently. Bill Clinton's the only person that's balanced the budget, and even though he didn't really balance the budget.
1997 is the last time we had an actual budget.
Right. And, you got to give Clinton a lot of credit. And, when he was in office, I didn't. And looking back, hindsight being what it is, I still think he screwed up a lot. But when it came to the monetary side of things, he balanced the budget. And that's not been done in decades.
Yeah, before him or after him.
Well, and Maya just made a good point. Where have all these Reagan people gone? Because all the way up till Election Day, all I heard about was Reagan this, Reagan that, so much that I thought Reagan was actually going to run again. That was all you heard about.
I'm going to go ahead and let you know he's passed away now.
Well, I know that, and I also want to let Maya know that for as good of a talker that Reagan was, he got outplayed by a chimp in a movie.
That is true. That is true. So the whole rebranding effort is just crap. They act like the GOP basically runs like a corporation where they're trying to sell something versus, say, let's take, for instance, the Libertarian Party. They're not really trying to sell something. They're trying to stand up for something. Well, that's the idea. That's the idea behind the Libertarian Party, is that they're supposed to be standing for something, standing for, individual rights, individuality, individual consequences, this bastion of freedom, and leaving you to your own devices as long as you're not using those devices against others. That's the whole idea, and we have for the very beginning, a little bit in the middle, and kind of recently been acting like that and running the party in such a fashion where we'd get candidates that we want elected that would pursue those measures. Now, recently we had Wayne Allen Root be a complete and total piece of shit.
Never was a libertarian.
Never was a libertarian. We allowed him in because he was this big talker, big fancy suit.
We did more than allow him in. We put him on a pedestal.
Oh.
He was Wayne Allen Root.
Oh,
We elected him to the LNC.
We did all kinds of stuff.
He was a traitor from the word
go. We wanted him to be a huge part of this, and that's a huge thing with any political party, is you've got all these people that that believe in what I believe in, voluntarism, anarchy, or whatever, and they don't want to play party to politics. But they don't want to play in the system, or they want to fight within the GOP, and it fails time and time and time again. Trying to fight in the GOP is retarded. Sorry, it is. But so you got these people that don't want to play in the LPIN, and so that allows all these old, crusty, mossy, absolute douchebags come in here and run the party. I mean, we're seeing that right now in the LPIN, where we've got these old school people, and all these people have been kind of sitting around getting crusty and, falling apart, going like stale bread, and they're the leadership of the party. And you got the young people that see this huge, vibrant movement in the GOP of libertarian-esque, and the libertarian words thrown around, this Julie Borowski, crackhead. And
right? Hi, welcome to the Uncontrollables. Surprise, tonight's episode, Cops and Julie Borowski.
And so you got all this stuff, and their rebranding effort over the past couple of years with Ron Paul throwing all of his support behind the GOP machine, all of his support into the two-party, left-right paradigm, through every last bit of it. And same thing Rand Paul's doing, all these supposed, liberty candidates. So all these young people see this crusty, stale libertarian party, and they're like, we don't want that. Who are these guys? They're irrelevant. They've got no energy. They got no life. There's these old, crusty, fat people and these bearded weirdos talking about stuff that in a language we can't understand. And so they're going to go to the GOP because they're running like a corporation, and they sold a beautiful, shiny product. And so that's why we're going to talk about the LPIN or Libertarian Party's rebranding.
Let's ask you what your thoughts are. There's a big divide in the Libertarian Party, mostly at the national level, but even I think at the state level to some degree. Does the Libertarian Party supposed to be a party that is principally here to educate people and create a mindset, or are they a party that is better benefited by getting candidates elected?
Well, let's see here. Let's look at the English language for a moment. Libertarian Party, because there's the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and the Libertarian Party. There's the Green Party, too, and the Constitution Party and a bunch of other weirdos. So we're a party. We're legally a part of the system to run candidates. That's what our legal status is. We have bylaws. We follow state rules. We run a Secretary of State or however different states do it. We run candidates so we can have ballot access. I think the point of a party is to run candidates, get them elected. Now, the whole, everybody wants to be a think tank, everyone wants to be a legislative action center, all that stuff. There's other causes for that. I mean, think of what Cato Institute and all these other institutes and places do. That's what they do, and they're very good at it, and they have the manpower and resources to focus on their job and their legal status. A party, on the other hand, elects candidates. Wouldn't you say?
Paul?
It's very well said, especially when all I've heard about for the last 3 months is how important our Secretary of State race is going to be, so we continue to get ballot access here in party, like Maya just said.
Just so people know what we're talking about there, because this is important, and this is kind of a twist in Indiana politics a lot of people don't understand. The Libertarian Party gets ballot access. Really, there's only one of two ways to get on the ballot in Indiana. One is to go out with petitions and get enough signatures, but the other way is as a party to get 2% or more of the vote in the Secretary of State's race. That's the only race that matters, which is an argument in its own. So for a party like the Libertarian Party to get at least 2% of the vote in that race is really kind of essential to our survival. Now, we've been lucky enough that we've had ballot access here in the state since the 90s. We constantly blow past that 2% mark. We're inching closer to the 10% mark, actually, which actually moves us in up a step from a minor party in Indiana, legally defined as a minor party, to a major party, which has its own benefits, disadvantages, get to be involved in the primary, but then also, there's a lot of benefits to a party that come with that, but the disadvantage is we really don't want to be involved with the primary because we think the primary is private party business. It's a waste of money.
That's a huge thing. You know how many people know that?
Nobody knows that.
You know why? Because they're stupid. Duh. No, they're blissfully ignorant, because what the two other parties have done have passed laws for years and years and years and years to hold down anyone trying to challenge them. So when I talk about the left-right paradigm and a false two-party system, everything else, people kind of sneer at that or kind of cock their head like a retarded dog, and they're like, huh? Well, it's because they have solidified themselves in power. And you know what the GOP and the Democrats do? They go, yeah, come out and get involved in politics, but they take care of all the actual politics. You're just pawns they're pushing around. You think running for a district coordinator or a precinct captain is actually getting involved at any sort of level? Yeah, in 15 years when you've moved up the ranks and you've sucked enough. So you have all these little roles and all these little things the GOP does for you, takes care of. Same thing with the Democrats. And you never understand it. So when you join the Libertarian Party,
you will not get a cell phone.
Right. Well, that's what these two parties push constantly. The Democrats push that handout crap, and if you work for this candidate, you get this, you get that. But then you got the GOP, and you know what they hand out?
Tax breaks, favors, loopholes. I'm not a big fan of taxes,
not
obviously.
The party, but
when you start creating loopholes in taxes for your big business buddies,
the GOP is the party of corporatism, and that's what everybody knows. But what the party does with the individuals wanting to get involved as they go, here, you're going to get to meet these powerful people, these big, huge pools of money, the good old boy network, and that's what the GOP does. I've worked on 3 campaigns now, and I see it on the other side constantly. These same big names. If you run against or piss off this one particular individual that's powerful here, you're done. Shot. I know Tea Party people have tried to get involved in the GOP and work their way up and do stuff. They said one wrong position on something. They stood against something insignificant, maybe an economic issue, and the wrong person heard it, and they were banished, gone. So that's what you have to deal with, but it's this big, pretty, shiny thing. And if you play along to get along, like Freedom Works is espousing through all these other people and these other groups are basically saying they're liberty-oriented and wanting to support the GOP, are selling shiny to a bunch of, ADD-riddled kids. And that's why the Libertarian Party's failing and has to rebrand to something a little bit different, because they've got shiny, Democrats have free, and...
So what do we need? We need shiny?
I came up with a little phrase I was saying for a while until my grumpiness and my anger overtook it. And I said that when people think of the Libertarian Party of Indiana, I want them to smile. Because right now, either they scoff, they laugh, or they come up with some snide, stupid remark. I want people to think of the Libertarian Party and smile. I want them to have good feels. I don't want butt hurts or anything else. I want good feels when you think of the Libertarian Party, specifically the Libertarian Party of Indiana, because I'm not really endorsing all Libertarian parties of the states. Because like Texas, I hate Texas. You guys can go away. Georgia, you're going down. But in Ohio,
you're just stand up at the convention and be like, ladies and gentlemen, when you are thinking about who you're voting today, I want you to just think about one thing. Please, no butt hurts.
Okay, we got somebody here local that is the perfect example of what we kind of need more of in the Libertarian Party of Indiana, is that we have a pretty big hipster culture and a bunch of weirdos out here. But we've got somebody that can really speak to the younger generation, the internet generation. And he ran for state rep here this last election cycle. James Neese, go check him out. I swear he reads books and memorizes every word and then pulls out the most obscure thoughts and then throws them in your face. I mean, he does a great job. Yeah, well, he's an interesting character, but he did a great job, and I think he could really reach out to that young crowd. The non-college poli-sci crowd. The people that haven't been brainwashed in college indoctrination centers. So we've got somebody that can reach to the people aren't attracted to the shiny object of the GOP, that are self-educated, self-motivated, and driven. People like this James Neese character. Now, we've also got some old school people that are kind of killing us, where all they do is they drone on about the Constitution, how much they love the piece of paper that, drove us to the almost breaking point that we're currently at. That great Constitution at one point in time banned alcohol.
For what?
Yeah.
6 years?
You know how many people died and how much was ruined and how much government grew in that 6 years? The Constitution gave us that. The Constitution gave us everything we have. But we know we have somebody in our party here locally that's what he lives for. He lives and breathes and, defecates the Constitution. Somebody like that should really be in the Constitution Party, and we should support more third parties. So we know we have a large mix here, but we can kind of speak to everybody. But somebody like that's not really going to bring in new people. He's not shiny at all.
So it has to be shiny to lead the LPI in.
It has to have a shine on it, or it has to be shineable. These people that are just kind of drawn on about the same thing. Kids don't want to, or younger people, or people are now getting active. The people that want to hear about the Constitution, all that, are already in the GOP or are part of the Tea Party, because they also love the idea of legislating morality, which we are 100% against. But I say we, like I'm actually part of the Libertarian Party. I'm a dues-paying member, but that's going to change. But there's other avenues for those types of things where that's not really our branded message. Our branded message is individual responsibility, consequences. The individual is the pinnacle, not the Constitution, the individual, and that brand of government. So maybe that's what we should rebrand into. What do you think we should? Who do you think we should try to reach out to? Because we've actually gotten backlash from a lot of people and a lot of our members and people, the communities we've reached out to, say the LGBT community. We've gotten a lot of heat off for just deciding to speak with them, and any more than showing up to a parade or two. We've gotten blowback from reaching out to a lot of specific communities.
Well, I don't think that our problem is really who we're reaching out to. I think it's convincing them of the message. That we're still, as a party, small enough that so many people out there go, boy, I agree with what you all stand for, and I would vote for you, but you just don't have a chance at winning. And that's an attitude that has to be changed among voters in general. You know what? My biggest thing is I want you to go out and vote. And I don't care if you vote for my guy or somebody else's candidate. It doesn't matter. First and foremost, I want you to vote. But I want you to make an educated vote. I want you to vote for who you honestly believe would be the best person for the job. Whether or not they have a quote-unquote chance at winning shouldn't be something that you consider when you go into the ballot booth and cast that ballot. First and foremost, you should be thinking about who of these choices is the best person for the job. And if that person is libertarian, then you should vote for the libertarian.
I kind of understand that whole spiel there. But the problem I have is that you get all these people to go out and you get all these new people registered to vote and everything else. It's so easy to see that one guy or that two guys of the Democrat or Republican Party and go, well, I can just pull straight ticket. So until we get rid of straight ticket voting and things like that,
it's a big problem.
I really don't want to encourage more people to vote. Me, personally, I don't vote. I spent, 80 hours a week for 2 years working on a campaign and didn't even vote for my own candidate because I don't vote. That's my personal choice because voting is violence, and I will not, endorse the state. But as long as people are going to vote, things like that happen. When I ran on a mayor's campaign or worked on a mayor's campaign, he got 42% of the vote. almost won as a Libertarian in a small, like 30,000 something odd people town. But there was only 24% of people came out and voted. I'm not really sure I wanted many more than that to come out because I probably wouldn't have got 42%. I mean, as long as we had that straight ticket vote in these two big parties, do you want more people to vote?
Oh, and if you ever have had the opportunity to actually work the polls, at the end of the day, when you ask for the ticker tape out of the machine that show how every single race was voted on, and at the top, the very first thing it says is the number of straight tickets polled. And versus the total number of voters in any polling place, it's a ridiculously high number that assume that automatically, without fail, that the R is the best candidate simply because they have an R next to their name, or the D, or whoever. Even people that L. You know what? I may go into a voting booth and I may vote for nothing but Libertarian candidates because I think that they're the best for the job, but I refuse to hit that straight ticket button at the top because I don't believe in it.
We had a county councilor race that was an incumbent that switched parties that ran out here, and he ran for re-election, and he'd switched the party, so he went from Republican to Libertarian, and he got, 22% of the vote?
In a two-way race.
In a two-way race, and that was every non-straight ticket vote went to him.
Yep.
So he got some straight ticket Libertarian votes, but every non-straight ticket vote went to him, and it was only 22% of the vote, which means 78% of the people voting in that race voted straight ticket. Or actually more, depending on how many people voted straight ticket Libertarian. So that right there tells you nobody was actually thinking about who they were voting for. They just saw that R ticket. They knew there was one or two candidates on there, and they didn't want those evil Democrats to win or the evil Republicans to win. So, how do you rebrand a party to pass that up?
Well, maybe what the Libertarians, we talking about the GOP rebranding. I think it's obvious that they're actually getting out there and rebranding. They're completely shifting the path that they're going down. I'm not so sure that the Libertarian Party is actually rebranding right now in Indiana as much as maybe, we're going through a process. We may select some new leadership. We may continue with the same leadership. But I don't think that there's much going on about us actually rebranding. I think it's more along the lines of we're still going to stand for what we're standing for, but which exact path are we going to choose to get those people to step into the ballot booth and vote for one of our guys or gals?
Well, I'll say this real quick. In Shelby County, we had 11 people who voted straight party Libertarian, which was the first time that's ever happened in the county's history. Now, on one hand, you can look at that and say maybe the Libertarian movement is getting recognized in Shelby County, or you can look at it and say, that's 11 people who did exactly what the Republicans and Democrats have done time after time after time. Recognize one name, I'm done 5 seconds after voting. Josh, you had a very good point when you went on your quote-unquote little rant there about go out, take the time, look at who's running, and I don't care. I would prefer you vote for someone that you actually believe in, who you think is going to do a good job, but as long as you go out and vote and try to make a difference to a degree, or, and I completely understand Maya doesn't vote, and that should not diminish the role that Maya plays, because Maya definitely does make a difference in a much different facet. So, would I like people to vote? I don't know. I look at all the last elections that we had and all the people who have turned out to vote, and I scratch my head and say, what the hell were you people thinking?
Well, the fact is, though, straight party voting, it's not going away. We're not going to get legislators on board with that. They're first and foremost, it's to their advantage for exactly the reason we're talking about. So they don't want to get rid of it there. And the fights, they won't say that that's why they want to keep it. They'll say, oh, well, we don't want to, voters feel strongly about their party. They want to make sure that they vote only for their party, and going through an entire ballot can be confusing, and they might accidentally vote for the wrong person, which is all, as we know, a bunch of hoosafudge. But it's what they're going to say. It's here to stay. So we can't really even discuss it as a, well, what happens when it's gone? Because it's not going anywhere. It's more, what can we do to get people to steer away from that path?
But in terms of the state Libertarian Party, I don't know. Are we in the middle of a rebranding and a retooling? I don't know. I think what we have is, as Maya said, we have a lot of people who are older, and we have a split right down the middle with the younger people. I mean, James Neese, Maya and I talked before we went on the show about James Neese. And James is one of those candidates who can reach people that, Maya made the point, I couldn't go into Shelby County and talk to those people. I can't go to Fountain Square and talk to those people. But James Neese has a way where he can go out and he can reach some of those people, just like Rupert. Rupert was the same exact way.
Well, and see, that's we've had some amazing candidates over the last couple years, and especially in this last election cycle, we had some just outstanding candidates, and I think that's where the retooling is going to come in, because we had these candidates come in that were a little bit different than the norm. Maybe they did masturbate to the Constitution. Maybe they didn't drink a lot of beer and really, really loved being a libertarian for all their life. They were a little bit different, had some different views, but the party attacked them. They tried to eat them alive. I mean,
I don't think the party. I think that the party as a whole didn't. I think there were some segments of the party. I would also even say, I'll go so far as to say, I think it was not even the majority. It was small segments of the party.
Well, some of the loudest sections of some of the old
minorities.
Yeah, the vocal minorities, and some people that have some quite a bit of pull. And I think that's where the rebranding effort here in this state's going to go, is that we're either going to keep allowing people to be torn down in this tent to get smaller and more restrictive and more bigoted, or we're going to open it up a little bit, bring back some real standards of what a libertarian is, not what a constitutional it is, not what a Republican light is, but what a libertarian is. Open up the tent a little bit more and allow some of these candidates that can reach these new facets of people, these new voters. Everything else can actually get in the party and go. So I think that's where our rebranding effort is going, is where our leadership can change.
You know what the biggest challenge for the Libertarian Party, as far as getting new voters or keeping existing voters, is going to be, is if the Republicans continue down this pseudo-libertarian path, this Republitarian path that they want, this Julie Borowski, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio path, there's going to be some people that have gravitated towards the party. They're going to gravitate back towards the GOP because they feel, once again, it's going to be my vote will actually maybe get someone to win then.
I laugh not because that's funny. I laugh because I actually heard someone make that argument earlier this week, and they said that if by some chance Rand should get the GOP nomination, they're going to have an interesting time deciding whether to support Gary Johnson, assuming Gary Johnson's the DLP nominee again, or Rand Paul. And this is someone who, is part of the older movement in our party.
It's the same thing that would have happened last year if Ron Paul would have somehow got the Republican nomination and it was Ron Paul, Gary Johnson. I guarantee Gary Johnson's numbers would have been considerably less than they end up being.
Well, if all the weirdo Ron Paul supporters would have voted for an actual candidate instead of writing him in, like so many did, because he wasn't an actual candidate at that point, if they would have voted for Gary Johnson, he would have been at 10%. I guarantee it. He would have been way up there. If these Ron Paul supporters would go, okay, what's revolting? Stop supporting the frickin' two-party system. I don't get it. I don't get why people can't understand the two-party system has given us this, has continued and perpetuated this entire shit country we happen to be born into and can't get out of. And, they don't get it. They just want to keep supporting it no matter what, and they find these freaking messiahs with Ron Paul and Rand Paul. Really? They put them up on these pedestals and make them look out like they're godlike figures, and these one individuals will save the world.
Well, and I listened to another podcast where someone made...
You shouldn't. This is the only one. That and my other one on creatingmaya.com is the only two you're allowed to listen to. Henceforth. Continue.
Seriously.
Point well taken.
Respect.
And
bump me.
Right? Fist bumps right now.
Wait, hold on.
You got to make that shit explode.
Fist me.
Fist me.
That's hi. This is the Uncontrollables.
Wow.
Fist me.
We love fisting.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you.
So, as I always say before that bizarre situation, someone on another unnamed podcast was talking about how we'll never see another Ron Paul like in our future, and we missed a golden opportunity, and this and that. And I don't know, I look around and I see Marco Rubio and Justin Amish and Rand Paul all fighting to be the next Ron Paul. I don't know why people think just because Ron retired and went back to the ranch in Texas that all hell is going to break loose now when it comes to quote-unquote libertarian movements.
Oh, it won't.
But through the years, like Maya kicked off the show talking about, we've seen Goldwater. No, a lot of people didn't think we'd see another Barry Goldwater type. We saw Reagan, and despite what Sean Hannity thinks, we're never going to see Reagan again. Ron Paul came and went. Rand Paul is going to come and go. Justin Amos is going to come and go. Rubio is going to come and go.
But that's the point, is that no matter how great they are, no matter how if the GOP turned into the pinnacle and bastion of libertarianism and became a true libertarian party. Okay, first off, it's still built off the power structure of a two-party system stranglehold on the voting system in this country. That's as long as there's a two-party system, it's going to fail. I don't care how great people are, how good things are. As long as there's only two parties and they have laws forcing third parties out and down, can it ever be fixed with only a two-party system?
No, and I have seen the belly of the beast.
Absolutely not. And it's kind of funny because the Republicans love to act like they are the party of, free market and capitalism, and it's competition that helps drive the market, but they refuse to accept competition when it actually will interfere with their brand and what they're looking for. And it won't ever change. Look at what's happened over the last 50, 60 years. People don't even look at just Republicans and Democrats. Just look at people's attitude towards politics in general. People are sick and tired and fed up, and they're giving up on the system. They're giving up, and it's because of the two-party system.
Hey, there's a bunch of tall rejects dribbling rubber balls around a hardwood floor. Let's pay attention to that. Why weren't we talking about basketball on this show?
Let's talk about basketball.
Isn't that much more important? I mean, we kind of talked about a lot of stuff, and it's a huge topic. I mean, I only have an hour to do this, and we can beat this to death all day long, talking about rebranding and what party will work, what party won't work. But see, the reason I'm involved in politics is because I know people are going to continue voting, so I want to provide them with a much better choice to vote for. That's a little bit more in line with my thinking. My belief is politics has failed. Government has failed. Incrementalism does not work for our side. Liberty does not come from incrementalism. You can't do that, little tiny steps, because, like right now, we've got a great Republican state rep down in Arizona putting an amendment on a bill to change, to basically make it a Class 1 misdemeanor to walk into the wrong bathroom. He's basically going against everything that a Republican Party representative should stand for. Well, I mean, not these days, because you got a bunch of people like, our local Monica Boyer, Christian activist Tea Party weirdo that wants to legislate morality. So this guy is a Republican, and they're supposed to be for individual freedom, all this other stuff, but they're legislating morality by saying if you're transgender or maybe you look weird or something, a cop and actually a citizen can stop you and force you to show your papers to make sure that you're legally labeled as the right gender to enter the right bathroom. And it's going to make you it's going to be a misdemeanor, up to 6 months in jail or like a $5,000 fine. And this is a Republican. And where's the Republican Party nationally coming out and saying, you are an idiot?
Oh, give me a break, Maya. You know better than that. Despite what the Republican Party says, they are the party that stands for that bill. The Republican Party doesn't care about any kind of gender issues or sexuality issues except for whatever fits their nice little if it ain't what we're used to, then it ain't allowed kind of mentality.
Well, no, it's not even that. They're not for individuality, because I mean, if you're not of one sex and that person is not legally classified on the person's birth certificate as a member of that sex. So when do we have to start looking to the law to tell us what we can be labeled as? I mean, shouldn't the Republican Party be fighting that? But the main point is that you want to talk about all these little things? Well, they're going to start passing crap like that, and they do it all the freaking time. Legislating immorality, this and that, but we'll have one win. Maybe that drone bill won't get passed. Maybe they won't use drones to kill us. I mean, they're now using drones to do surveillance on us when they promised they never would. And Rand Paul obviously isn't against that, but that's fine. We'll compromise. You can use them you can use them for surveillance. Just don't blow us up with them. That's an okay compromise. Because that's how incremental works. You compromise a little bit here, and then maybe you make a win. No, it doesn't work that way because we've compromised to this point. This is what compromising has gotten us, is this shithole of a country. So politics, I don't think, is worthwhile. I think we got to burn it down, not literally, and just not rebuild. Everyone says they want to replace it and bring the Constitution back. Well, the Constitution is a flawed document. It's a flawed idea. So let's just tear it all down through agorism or voluntarism or black markets, gray markets, anything. The Bitcoin movement, I don't care.
What do you think about Bitcoins?
No, they're fiat currency. No, I had the chance to buy Bitcoins when they were trading like 1 and 2.
Right, they're up there.
I could have made a boatload of money. They hit 60 something odd.
Are
bucks
they up
the
that
other day?
high? I lost track of them
God,
around 50.
they're trading higher in silver, but it's still a fiat currency.
Oh,
it can all the government has to do
is
cut off the internet. Okay, first off, it's digital. Digital can be manipulated. You can only manipulate gold or hard currency so much. So these people doing Bitcoin, it's a joke. What was there? There was another freedom currency they had a couple years ago. You know what the government did? They destroyed it. You know why you've never heard about it? Because it was destroyed. Bitcoin's another fad, and it's going to get completely destroyed. And you can't do anything with it. What could I right now, sitting inside this house, other than the Bitcoins I used to buy that anarcho-capitalist flag, what could I buy in here?
Wait a second, you're shopping with Bitcoins.
That was actually, I think, like 2 years ago. I mean, I was like, I got a wallet, and I bought like a 200 Bitcoins off somebody. I was like, hey, what can I do with these? And I spent them. I don't see a purpose of it. I can buy nothing in here. I couldn't buy computer components with it. They have all these little places that pop up and this, that. I don't know. That would be a great idea. I think it's a neat thing if we weren't in the system we're currently in. We can really get into Bitcoins later. We've got a local person we can bring on here. Hopefully he won't listen to this show or any of my other episodes or read any of my Facebook posts.
So maybe he'll consider coming on?
Yeah,
that's great.
I mean, it's one of those things. So, I don't know. It's a huge thing. But I believe that as long as people are going to keep voting and there's a system to vote for, I'm going to try to improve it the best I can. I'm going to keep doing the stuff I'm doing on the side anyways, through cop block and my other activism. I'm afraid to get my door kicked in and, shot in the head. I'm glad I don't have a dog or the cops that shoot it. And so we have the LPIN convention coming up, the Libertarian Party of Indiana convention coming up. What date is that on?
The convention itself, the main body of the convention is Saturday, April 20th.
20th.
There's going to be events going on surrounding the convention the 19th, 20th, and 21st. Starting, it's in Columbus, Indiana, and it's going to be starting Friday night. There'll be some meet and greets, get some opportunity to meet some people you have maybe never met before, hang out with some people that you've not seen in a while.
Specifically me.
Right, especially Maya. But the business, the speakers for the most part, and the actual business part of the meeting will be on Saturday, the 20th. We are going to have a 420 meeting with a bunch of libertarians.
I'm going to really recommend that everyone that can go to any of this. You can go meet local libertarians and go talk to all these people and ask them questions, because I make a lot of personal attack posts and I talk about a lot of people in a very negative fashion. I do that for a reason, because I hate these pricks. And I get real tired of having these people sit around and no one say anything. I spent 2 years on a campaign holding my tongue, getting lashed at, getting death threats, getting shit from some of these people. So I want everyone to go to this convention and meet these people, and you'll figure out real quick who the dickheads are and who the actual good people are. Mainly the people I'm talking to in a very polite fashion, those are good people. The people I'm staring at and wondering, where they're going to either stab me in the back or shoot me or poison my drink, stay away from those people. There'll be lots of them, because they're going to come out of the woodwork to this thing. Because they're just evil, vile people, and you're going to have that everywhere.
But honestly, come hang out with us. It'll be a good time.
I'm going to bring a scorecard and a Sharpie so I get some autographs.
So I get yelled at for this infighting, and people get really mad at me for being a very aggressive, loud, blunt person. And I'm about sick and tired of that shit, because you know what? I'm tired of people being silent. I'm tired of people just sitting on the sidelines saying, oh, well, that's bad. But I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to shout down the loudest voice. And that's half the problem we have in this godforsaken country is that
nobody wants to be that person.
and so everyone just sits there, and that's how we got here in the first place. It's just everyone sat on the sidelines. And so I'm going to go ahead and start doing what everyone should have been doing and speak up and fight for things and be passionate about things. If you don't like it, get the fuck out of my way.
Doing a little bit of a bashing, and that's fine. That's the show. But honestly, I want to make sure that everyone that's out there listening knows that the convention's actually a pretty good time. You will meet some great people. You will learn a lot about the way that the political system actually works, because we're gonna tell you things that the Republicans and the Democrats don't want you to know, and the kind of stuff that actually is that they do to keep us down, to keep us from getting a whole lot of votes.
Oh, you mean we're gonna treat you like a human being?
Well, not you.
Well, of course not. No, I'm an abomination, a sin against nature. Love it. Would you say that infighting and vocalizing issues within the party, and we're not talking about ideological differences, we're not talking about philosophical differences, we're not talking about anything like that. We're just talking about putrid people and their absolute crap actions. Do you agree that maybe some infighting is a good thing?
Yes, by far. And for what it's worth, I made that thread questioning someone who might represent me with the 6th Congressional District in the SEC position. And that has gotten, well over 70 looks and 70 comments, and that's more than anything else. And it's not necessarily that it was an attack. It was asking some things that should have been asked long ago. Like Maya was saying, it's easy to stand on the sideline and wave the flag and everything's good, and we just bury our head in the sand out like we don't have any real problems within the party. It's good. It's festered a good, healthy debate.
Infighting, goes back to the whole competition thing and whether or not competition is good. The fact that whether or not it's infighting or it's just, a debate about where we should go, it's making us bring the conversation to the forefront. It's maybe putting some fresh ideas in our head that we haven't had. No matter what ends up happening at the end of April when we come out of this convention, the Libertarian Party of Indiana is going to come out stronger because of the discussion that we've been having for a couple months now, and that we're going to have for another month or so leading up to the actual convention.
Right. No, yeah, that's a great point. And that's not even what I'm really doing. I mean, when I come out support of a certain candidate that's running for chair, I'm supporting Dan Drexler for LPIN chair and Matt Whitliff for vice chair. So you guys need to vote for those if you go to the convention, you're actually a delegate or whatever. It's what I'm doing is I'm literally doing personal attacks on people because of their actions way outside of the bounds. I mean, that's really what I want to do, and that's like the new news with the CEO of Starbucks basically telling some investor, if you don't like the loss of profits because we stood up for gay marriage, or let's change that, for equal frickin' rights, then take your money elsewhere. And people want to dump Starbucks over that. And it's like, no, he kind of went on a personal attack there and stood up for something, and he did right. And that's what I think I'm doing, is I'm standing up against people's bad actions, against their hate and their just negative attitudes. I mean, Paul, you were told by a campaign manager for a Senate race that you were being uppity when you're being proud about the fact that Shelby County was a very active party. At the time, it's its inception, it was brand new. You were told you were being uppity and to quiet down by someone that's the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Indiana and the campaign manager for a Senate race told you were uppity for just being proud about yourself.
Along with a couple other things as well, yeah.
Let's talk for just a second. You want to talk about what you've really done in Shelby County. Where was Shelby County just not too long ago, and where are they today as far as growth goes?
Well, up until last July when I met Rupert and Chris Spangle, and they both introduced me to the state party, because I'll be honest, we had been here 4 years and I didn't know that there was a real state party to a degree. Met Rupert, met Chris Spangle, and that got the ball rolling in Shelby County July August, it started to pick up, started reaching out to some people I knew who shared a lot of the same views politically. And what really did it was hooking up with Maya and asking, can we get Rupert to come back to Shelby County?
And
time and time again.
You were an unaffiliated county, and now you're an affiliated county. You did so much, and I'm just going to pat you on the back a little bit because it's really impressive what you've pulled off in Shelby County. You did so much that you went from June or July, not even knowing that the state party existed, to a couple weeks before election, you got our presidential candidate to come visit Shelby County because that was a hot spot of libertarianism in the state. You got Gary Johnson to come. That's the movement
and
that
you
made in
had
Shelby County.
A huge showing, a great event. And you've done such an amazing job that we haven't really necessarily seen lately from a lot of places, is that you've communicated greatly with other county parties, and you forced communication onto some of the old leadership that hasn't been communicating. You've forced them to come out of the woodwork and actually start doing things and helping you, and you've actually been kind of buggy. A lot of people say this about you, Paul, that you bug the living crap out of people, but in the best way possible, and that we need more of that. And then maybe these people are starting to realize, I'm getting irritated with somebody that's motivated and wanting to do more, and that's irritating me. Maybe I need to step out or be remotivated. And you've done a lot to do that, I think, for a lot of people, and they've seen that. And that's something that one of the candidates running for chair brought up, is that we need to do more to pat each other on the back. We really don't. You look at over the history, and Josh, you can attest to this more than anybody, is that after the campaigns are over, everyone's so depressed from not winning or not doing as well, they all go home and they talk crap about each other, and they talk about what the other campaigns could or could not have done and everything else. And he basically said, which I wholly agree with, is that we need to tell people when they do a good job. Like James Neese. James Neese has not gotten near enough credit for the amazing campaign he did and the great job he did basically by himself. He
went out, Neese went out, and he was door to door by himself. Hit hundreds of homes.
He hit the debates. He hit everything.
Here's what impressed me about James Neese, as well as Rupert and Rex Bell and Jeremiah Morrill and Chris Spangle, despite the fact that he didn't run for anything. When I asked, they came.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been very easy to tell someone who you barely even knew and wasn't even in affiliated county, no. And one person did do that. And they showed up at the very tail end of the Gary Johnson event after everybody left. But James Neese came out to Shelbyville, or came out to Fairland for the Gary Johnson event. Those people out there, they weren't going to vote for James. He wasn't going to represent those people. But he came out and he hung out, and he was able to reach people who, if they were in a different district, would have voted for him. And I think that says a lot about James. James, by himself.
And in his words, solidarity. And it's kind of a joke, but no, he did a lot. And there's a lot of other candidates that did amazing, like Rex Bell, old school. He's been around for a while. He has a hilariously awesome book called Stinky Shorts.
Good
Stinky
book.
Shorts.
Hilarious.
Look it up, find it. I don't know how exactly he's selling it, but just buy it from him. Hunt him down and go to like Newcastle in some diner and ask to see Rex Bell and buy his book because it's awesome. But he's one of those great old school guys. Jeremiah Morrill, just a hard-working guy. If he wasn't working so hard on actually keeping his life together and not going broke and poor like the rest of us, he could have done. He did an amazing job. We've got another county out there, Henry County, that just affiliated this last election cycle, being run by Travis Wyke. Mm-hmm. And we've got one of their own party members that's new running for SEC.
There are some really strong, really good hard workers in the Libertarian Party here in the state of Indiana. Some people, both that are soldiers out on the front lines, and some people that are more behind the scenes. That just, boy, if they've got free time, they spend it the way they can to really push the party towards the future.
We've had some different county parties. When I was event coordinator on the Rupert for Governor campaign, I keep hearing some of these names from that I talked to over the phone or on the email, continuing to work with the Libertarian Party, and they're not even libertarians, but they still want to work with their candidates. They want to work with people just because they believe so much in some of these people. So that's why I get so furious, and I get so personal because I see these other people out there, these people we've kind of roundabout mentioned, and they tear these hardworking people down.
But I think that more so than retooling and rebranding is the issue. Not so much do we retool, rebrand, what way we go about it is. We have Travis in Henry County, myself and a lot of others in Shelby County, James Neese. We have people who finally are ready to take over and say, we're here. We're going to be vocal. We're going to speak up when we see wrongs being done, especially to the candidate and the candidate staff for the highest office in our state. And you're going to have to either realize that we're here to help the party grow, or there's two other parties that you can go back to.
Very well said. I mean, I'm going to be here stirring up shit all over the place because that's basically what I do, and I'm going to make people's lives an absolute living hell if they want to. If they want to attack you, if they want to attack some of these new young people, you can disagree with the candidate all day long. But when you're representing a party or officially represent anything, and you're going out and you're tearing them down and bad-mouthing them in public, that really says something about your character, and I'm going to make sure that gets pointed out and that you get eaten alive by the people you thought supported you or may have supported you blindly or ignorantly. I'm going to make sure that you bleed in the water.
Shark-infested waters.
No. Sharks take one bite. They don't like you. They go away. I want piranhas. I want your flesh to be ripped off in little, quarter-ounce pieces. Little bit by little bit until you finally bleed out. And that's what I really, really, really metaphorically want for these evil, vile people out there. And it goes for anybody. I mean, it goes in the trans community. It goes for anything. I'm really sick and tired of these people getting away with this crap. Every time I get online, I see a bunch of morons throwing around words they don't know how to use, making opinions and judgments on things, and these people vote. And they yell out this stuff. What do you think that's all the suicides in the LGBT community? You know why? Because these little crazy Christian retards are out there shouting from the rooftops, God hates fags, and, trans people are abominations, and you need to be cured or re-educated or fixed by science because, our God and our child-molesting Pope supreme. They say they want a knight in shining armor. I'll give them a knight, but I'm going to be covered in blood. Shiny armor. You haven't done anything. It's still shiny. I want mine covered in bits of people's brains and skulls. I want fingers to be stuck in my chainmail.
There's a line.
It's been crossed.
How do you get fingers out of chainmail?
So we're going to end on that note, a positive note for once, and basically subscribe to our...
Despite everything you've heard tonight, folks, please go ahead and tune in next week.
No, don't. Just
don't.
Give up on us.
Give up.
Really.
Run far, far away.
This has been the pinnacle of our achievement. This is all we got.
So please subscribe to our Facebook page, The Uncontrollables. There's not like 1,000 people liking it yet, so I think, I'm sorry all of your computers are broken at the exact same time for the last couple of weeks, but go ahead and get those fixed and get on there and like that. Share it like 3 or 4 times a day. People will love you for it. Go ahead and follow Josh on Twitter at
J.A. Featherstone.
Go ahead and follow me on everything, Maya Axton. Search my name anywhere, and all kinds of stuff will pop up. I'm serious. Google my name.
Right.
You will be amazed. I don't know.
Keep the safe search on and don't click the images tab.
Yeah, no, don't do that. But I've only been using this name for a year now. It's literally, I think it's only 4 days past my 1-year anniversary coming out publicly about being trans.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, I'm 1 year old. So I've done
Hey,
that. So that's
baby.
been a huge thing. I'm actually going to be doing a podcast / article / video on that whole shabab on my website, creatingmaya.com. But follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. There's all kinds. I'm all over Facebook. You should really follow me. You will love me. Thanks for listening. Also, give Indiana Talks a like and, listen to all the other shows on this channel. I mean,
Click that donate button.
yeah, click the donate button because running a network that has people like me on it is expensive. I'm sure they're going to start getting sued a lot. They're going to need legal counsel. But thanks for listening. This was Uncontrollables with Paul Gable
Thank you.
and Josh Featherstone.
Have a great night.
And Josh Featherstone's new girlfriend or partner or life mate. I'm going to end it there. Thanks, guys.
When we sit here naked.
Yeah, when we get naked. Oh, yeah, she's gone for it. Wait, Emily will be home soon. We can have 2 naked chicks in here. Oh, yeah, because I ain't getting naked. I'm sorry. I have tattoos you guys are never going to see.
Right.
But.
No, there's an O there. Here, let me bend over. I'll show you. Oh.